And welcome to today's episode. We have Whitney here once again with us, and I'm super excited. We totally ran over last time, like bad. So I'm gonna have to try to figure that out and figure out how to edit, and it'll be fun and exciting to try to figure it out. But anyway, welcome to today's episode on social expectations and friends once again. We just have so much to talk about. I feel like this could be a part 7 series, honestly.
Really could.
Especially because Whitney's just so easy to talk to, you know?
Oh, you flatter me. You adulate me. I don't know if I used that right, but that's the word of the day. You adulation me. Which, I'm sure you've got it from context because I used it so seamlessly, but... The definition.
Yeah, that was wow.
That was wow. I pat myself on the back.
Like, wow. It was good. Wow.
Just kidding. Okay. Adulation, word of the day. It's a noun, and it means, this should have been the word of the day, obsequious flattery, excessive admiration or praise.
Should have been the word of the day.
Honestly.
I think that just means excessive. Excessive
clever
flattery.
Girl.
I could be wrong, but
seems probable. I'll totes pull it up. It's a bonus.
I'm looking
Fun
up
fact.
Now. Oh, servile, obedient or attentive to an excessive or servile.
Good job.
What can I say? Okay, well, anyway, that's such a wonderful segue into the word of the day. Everybody.
Oh, thank you. I saw it and I took it.
Wow, that was just... Okay.
Should we hop into the quote of the day?
We should do it backwards today. Okay.
Oh, I didn't know that was backwards.
No, I think it's so wonderful to do it at the beginning. Maybe I should shake it up more often. Okay.
You know.
Whitney found both the word of the day for this episode and last episode, and this quote from this episode and last quote. So, round of applause for Whitney. Okay, anyway, Hank Smith said, the best portion of your life will be the small, nameless moments you spending... I just butchered that quote.
It's going good. You've got it.
Okay, the best portion of your life will be the small, nameless moments you spend smiling with someone who matters to you. I feel like that's so simple but sweet and deep at the same time.
Right. It's like beautiful and profound, yes. Even though it's just stating, I think the strong things in life are like the ones that state something you already have learned throughout your life, but you haven't put into words. Like that put it into words.
Yes. Okay. So that just reminded me of something in the Book of Mormon and in the scriptures and in like the great works and in the general conference talks and everything within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. A lot of the times the themes and the lessons are the exact same, just again and again and again. And I think that's I know it's on purpose, because as human beings, we forget all the time. I mean, there's a reason in the scriptures it says remember so many times. So anyway, yes, what you said about that quote of, I think the best quotes are the ones we already know. I think the same are with lessons, especially if you talk about like what's already in you, just what you already know. Anyway, just wanted to add that real quick.
One of my little podcast ideas I alluded to you earlier, but is about art. Like pretty much I think great art, or literature or music does that, you know, like this quote is art. It just like speaks truth.
Yes.
Art
that speaks truth. That's good. Is that what
Spoiler alert.
Is that what the other episode you want to do on?
Pretty passionate about, yeah.
Oh, I think we could totally do that. Especially because we could talk about how
rant emails.
I think it's also because we could talk about how writing is an art as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. No, we could totally find stuff to talk about. Well, anyway, off that topic.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler.
My bad.
Okay, so one thing that I looked at and realized we didn't talk about last episode that I want to talk about today is being known is being loved. And obviously,
yeah.
this is not the case for absolutely everyone because everyone doesn't let themselves be open to receiving love. I think a lot of times people will close that off, but if you are open to it and if you do share a little bit of who you are and they know you, then being known as being loved. I think there are so many different ways of this quote, actually. You could attack this from so many different sides. What do you think?
Might I attack?
Yes, please do.
So my thoughts are, it's like, it can be a different kind of love. You know, being known as being loved, like, you know, it's a reciprocating kind of the friendship love we've been talking about.
Yes.
But it can be, like, I think so often it's a Christ-like love. Like, you might not like the way they're acting. You might not like this. But it's like a charitable love. Like, you can't help but appreciate who they are and what they've done. Like, you can't hit up close. Because when you know someone intimately, you know what they've been through and you have empathy for them. And they're just, you know, one of God's children doing their best. Like, that's why I love that so much.
No, I love that. And I think that's the other side of the coin that I was talking about too. I guess I was thinking about it more from like what I learned at FSY this last summer of how the more people you get to know, the more people have the opportunity to know you and love you. And the more people you get to know, the more opportunity you get to know and love them.
Right.
And
which is also very true and valid.
Which is true. It's both points are true. Both points can be true. One thing I also really loved is thinking about how even though I met so many people at FSY, it didn't mean that any of my friendships at home meant any less to me. Like, opening yourself up to more friends doesn't take away love from other friends. Because you make time for those that you care about. Right.
Which I kind of want to insert something about the quote from earlier.
Yeah,
right?
Please do.
Time with someone who matters to you.
Yeah.
It just reminds me of like a time like when I was like hanging out with one of my friends, and it's like, I don't know. The reason I love that quote is like it really is the best portion because you're sitting there like there was this time I was with my friend, we're singing in the car, and then I was like, wow, I feel so happy.
Yes.
You know, like people with you, and like when you can take that step back. Not that relevant. I just wanted to say.
No, that's so true. Relevant. No, it's relevant for sure. I think I said relevant. Whatever.
You may have.
Maybe no one noticed, but they notice now. I think that's very relevant. But yes, getting to know people is getting the opportunity to love them and for them to love you. And then also it's giving you opportunities to have those small little moments that make life so wonderful and great.
Right. I mean, and just like going back to like the whole charity thing, like I had a friend in junior high, we had a troubled relationship. It was before I knew how to be a good friend. I was learning, right? And like at one point I was like, oh my gosh, this is not it. You know, like we are not doing well here and I don't really like her. But then at the same time I was like, but I kind of love her, you know? Like it's a tough love, but like you've been through all that and you know why they do what they do, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I wasn't treated the best by this girl in elementary school when I was in like 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade, and a little bit of 5th. And I found out at the end of 5th grade year that during that time period, her parents were going through an ugly divorce. And it's not like looking back that made it hurt any less because it still hurt a lot the way she treated me or the things, like the words she said to me. But I almost like didn't care as much, if that makes sense. Like it didn't matter for me to hold on to that hurt or that pain, like to get vengeance or get justice or something, or, you know, not talk to her because I was, I realized that
you could empathize.
Yeah, I empathized that although, you know, my parents got divorced or, you know, they were doing good, I could still sympathize with that pain of her, you know, going through that difficult thing at home and then bringing that to school. And I just cared less about, I don't know, keeping score because we were still going to school together.
Right.
And so I don't know, I just had more sympathy for her and more patience, even though, like, things in the past, I guess part of what I'm trying to say is I didn't hold as much of a grudge, you know, because at the time it was hard.
It helped you forgive
her. Yeah, I would see her all the time and I'd be like, ugh, she was so mean to me. And now maybe she's not as mean to me. She's not necessarily, like, nice and goes out of her way, but she's still, you know, just civil. But I was like, there's no reason to hold on to this anymore. Like, it's just causing me pain and doing nothing for, you know, there's nothing beneficial coming from this.
Right. And when you know someone thoroughly, you see all sides of them. You see them as a complex person, you know? Like, I really believe people are doing the best they can with what they've been taught and what they've learned, you know?
It's true.
Like, I think we're all trying.
No, I agree. For the most part, I think that's very true. I think sometimes people that are lost become rebellious because they're lost and they don't know what to do. But at the same time, you could argue that they're still trying, even though they're not really sure what they're doing yet.
Right. Like, I think in that part, like, it can almost lead to, like, trauma response where people are, their actions are a little outside themselves.
Yeah.
Which I'm not saying excuses it. It doesn't. You deserve to be loved and treated right. You know, like, it doesn't excuse that behavior, but it does at least help you understand why.
Yeah.
You know?
No, for sure. Yeah. I was just thinking about how sometimes, you know, teenagers or young adults are rebellious and maybe don't hold up to the moral standards that they originally wanted to. And maybe in that argument, you're like, well, they're not doing their best. But at the same time, they could just be on that journey of self-discovery and trying to figure out what they believe. And that's kind of difficult in its own, you know, version.
Yeah. Well, something on that like was beautiful that I learned, like, I want to say it must have been senior year. My seminary teacher had us, like, write little letters to him, helping him to get to know us. He's like, you don't have to write, like, almost anything if you don't want to, just as much as you feel like you want to share, right? And I was like, I don't know, I'm doing good. Like, I don't read my scriptures as much as I used to, so, like, I've kind of regressed in that, you know. And, like, his response back really stuck with me. It was like, progress isn't linear. Like, you know, like, you might not be as consistent with your scriptures as you'd like to be or as you have in the past, but you've grown in other ways, you know. And it's not linear, and it's not meant to be linear. You know, like, the only person who had linear progress was the Savior.
Right.
You know?
Right. I think
so. It might not be your best. It's just your best for what you have at the time.
I agree. I wrote a blog post about this. I didn't come up with the best title, but I put "Do Your Best" with a question mark because I wanted to, like, it to be
I like
good.
it.
But anyway, and I talked about how the definition of your best is different for everyone and different for you depending on the time that you hear it. Because,
exactly.
You know, a lot of times people are like, oh, do your best. I'm like, well, if I did my best, I could be pretty darn good. Would I be burnt out and burn and crash? Yes. But could I do my best?
In ideal circumstances, I could technically perform like
exactly. Like, I could technically study this much. Technically, I could watch general conferences all day. You know, but that's not realistic.
Right. That's not reality.
Yeah. I wanted to add something to what you said about progress not being linear. I think one thing that's cool too is with your baptismal covenants, you talk about the covenants that you make is that you'll take upon his name, you'll always remember him, you'll keep the commandments, and then a fun little one that I like to add that's not official, but endure to the end. So the word take. Take upon his name, always remember him, keep the commandments, endure to the end. Anyway, one of the things is that we'll always remember him and we'll take his name upon us. And I think that is progression in the progression, the increase of thinking about him, of taking upon his name, of deciding to be a witness. For example, I've had dreams where I've prayed in my dream and my prayer was answered in my dream. And there's two things that I've been thinking about with this. One, that God answers prayers in our dreams. Or two, my subconscious believed that he would answer my prayer. And so my subconscious worked it out that way. And I think both scenarios are great. But anyway, I just was thinking about that the other day.
Interesting.
That the fact that I, in my subconscious, when I'm stressed, sleeping, I pray, I feel like that is a form of progression. And maybe I'm not always 100% about reading the scriptures, or I'm not always 100% about serving others, or, whatever. Maybe the definition of serving others, though, because I think we all serve others in different ways. But I think there are different levels of progression, and I like that it's not linear, because there are several versions of that progression and different things that we set our priorities on.
True, exactly. Like in this season, maybe the freshman season of my life that I was talking about, like I had really prioritized, consistent scripture study, and that was excellent, but then like senior year, I had prioritized other things. And so I had grown maybe academically or like in my study habits, which, knowledge is light, like that was still a valuable thing to progress in.
I think the important thing is that you just don't give up on anything or let one thing completely drop out of your life. Like maybe you're not the best at scriptures, but you read it when you go to church or, whatever, or they, or in Sunday school, they tell you to pull up a scripture and you pull it up. Like, I feel like that's an act of faith in itself. Like, that's an act of faith of showing your effort of pulling something up and saying like, hey, or even going to church. I think that's a huge act of faith. Even if you are active, going each week is showing the Lord whose side you're on.
Right. Yeah, you don't drop everything. It's okay if your priorities shift, and obviously God should be your top priority. That's not what I'm not trying to say the opposite.
No, I know.
But yeah, I think that's a good point. And I say balance because that's what people always say, you want your priorities to be balanced.
Right.
But I saw something really, I think, that helped me because I was like, I can't find the perfect balance of, 20 minutes of scripture study and then 30 minutes reading to myself. And then like, I was so busy that I had like tried to chalk out my schedule.
And
like
it's not fun.
In such.
Yeah.
No. And so at that time when I was like, wow, I'm so busy, like this is the worst. I can't find a good balance, right? Like my personal life is struggling or I need more downtime or something, right? And then I saw something that was really nice and it was like, maybe it's less about balance, but it's more about boundaries. Like, it's like, as long as I do the minimum of this and, like good. I'm within this range, it might not be this perfect pinpoint, but like if it's in the range of being okay, you're balanced, like it can shift and that can still be good. It can still be balanced.
Okay. Just because I'm having way too much fun with this, maybe, balance is good, but boundaries are what's important.
Right. Isn't it beautiful? I loved it when I saw it.
I just played that clapping sound again. I wish you could hear it.
I saw you clapping. I was like, okay.
Yeah, when we're in person, you'll be able to hear it.
It'll be great.
Anyway. Okay, one thing I wanted to bring up is that you listened to the Gift of Loving Yourself episode. Thank you, by the way. It was very nice of you. And you sent me a text saying that you were thinking about the idea of belonging.
Ooh.
And how if people don't feel like they belong and they're accepted, then they're not going to be themselves. Let's talk about that.
Well, and like on the emphasis you just said, like if they don't feel like they're being themselves, I just want to say perception is a reality, right?
True.
Like it's like
perception
you want you want to feel at home. Because like I feel like I have a friend who struggles with, I guess, with belonging and feeling like, she's a part of the crowd.
And such, yeah.
Right. And so like I feel like I'm like, oh, I feel like you're, I don't know, like you seemed yourself.
Right.
She's like, no, I don't feel like I can be myself. Like this, I'm restraining myself or whatever. Mm-hmm. Which I think is why I was able to come up. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what she thinks she wants to do. That's, kind of personal.
I don't know the solution there, but...
Right. It's not like she's like totally inhibited,
Right.
But she feels it, and so she doesn't feel like she's totally part of the group or whatever. And so I think that's kind of where some of these ideas stemmed from because I've been friends with her for a long time. So in listening to your episode, oh, where's the note? I thought I had it pulled up and it is not the note. I was just talking about belonging and how you need to be yourself because if people don't really know you, then you can't feel like you belong. I don't know. Let me find the note.
Here.
It was really good originally.
Yeah, let me read what you wrote because this is good.
Oh.
Okay. You said this. Your post was about loving yourself, and if you don't love yourself, you won't be your true, authentic self. And if you aren't acting like your true authentic self, you won't feel like you belong. And feeling like you belong is huge.
It really is huge.
Wow, who wrote that? That was so good.
It took me a while. Well, I wrote like a giant paragraph above it, and then I was like, okay, in conclusion, what I'm trying to say here.
No, the paragraph above is really good too. I like that as well. Well, I think we should read that too.
Right, that was me sorting out my thoughts.
No, I think we should read that too.
I finally found it. Okay, so in response to Kyra's episode about the gift of loving yourself, like I'd been thinking about how the idea of belonging, and if people don't feel like they belong or they're really accepted or loved, they don't feel like they're really loved or accepted if they aren't themselves, because they, they have to be less of themselves or soften or otherwise inhibit themselves.
Yeah,
right. Like they're not being as much as they are or
right.
whatever. They're not being their whole self,
right?
Quirks and all, right? Like then they can't be known as deeply, because like if I only know this perfect side of you, I don't know you. I know what you're presenting.
Ooh,
and so
that's deep.
And so like if you don't know someone, all facets, all sides of themselves, like you don't know them.
You can see them as like a two-dimensional person. They're not
right.
a 3D
You know them to
complex.
An extent.
Yeah,
you can say, Kyra's hair is brown, but like when you know someone really completely, then they can really belong, because back to being known as being loved. One of my favorite things, it's like read the Raven Cycle if you're with me, okay? If you love this theme of being known as being loved. That's what I got from it.
The book?
Anyway, so it's like, it's a series. The first book is The Raven Boys. And so it's like being known as being loved. So if I know someone loves this thing, or like we've bonded over this thing, then I can show that love because I have this knowledge, right?
Absolutely.
And so if they don't really know the whole you, then you're not loved as deeply. And if you're not loved as deeply, you don't feel like you're accepted and you belong, because it's like you don't even know the real me. How would I, how is this even real? How can you
love me if you don't know me?
Right, exactly.
Right. And so then, even love the real me if you don't know me,
Right. Are you only loving this version of me I'm presenting, right.
And do I have to always be that version of me to be accepted?
Right. As soon as I show a little bit more of myself, are you going to be like, this isn't who, you're not who you thought.
What did you do with
You're
Whitney?
Not who I thought you were. Right. All too well. The idea of me, who was she? The idea you had of me, who was she? Anyway, sorry.
No, you're good. I seriously love talking with you, and I think we need to do more episodes.
So,
what do you think?
Absolutely. Are we out of time?
Yeah, we are. But I had so much fun. I hope the listeners have fun with our chaotic.
We jumped around. We
really
this episode went a little differently than I thought it would. But I think we said some good things.
I think we did too. Maybe there's a gem in all that dirt. I don't know.
Right. We ad-libbed a little bit. It's fine.
Oh, well, anyway, Whitney, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. Hopefully we'll have a part 3, 4, 5, and 6. But let me know what you thought of today's episode, what you'd like to hear more about, something you think Whitney said that was interesting that you think we could expound upon, anything like that. We're really grateful for you listening today. Like I said, Whitney's one of my bestest friends in college, and I'm really grateful for her. So thank you, Whitney, for coming on.
Oh, you're sweet. I feel the same toward you.
Do I
You're amazing.
Adulate you?
I wouldn't say it's excessive. Okay. I would say it's lovely.
It's just about right? Okay, that's good to know.
Just about right. So thanks for having me.
Okay, thank you for listening. Embrace imperfection. Find meaning, satisfaction, and joy from the journey. I'm Kyra, and this is Imperfectly Broken, the podcast.